Hello, everybody, and welcome to a video on the Easy Game Media YouTube channel. Today is my review of Star Wars: The Last Jedi. So, for those who are new, you might not know, I'm a huge Star Wars fan. Huge. In fact, I think the only other video on this YouTube channel right now is a reaction to the trailer of Star Wars: The Last Jedi. So we're going to start off spoiler-free. So I'm going to talk about a few things spoiler-free, and then we're going to get into spoilers. And I'll let you know before we get into spoilers. So this video will be spoiler-free until I say otherwise. So let's start. So I want to start off just with my overall opinion of Star Wars: The Last Jedi. I liked it. I thought it was enjoyable. I enjoyed a 2.5-hour movie for the most part. One thing that I've noticed in doing content is that I watch movies with a little bit more critique than I would if I wasn't. So, like, if I did not know that I was going to do a review for this video, there are a few things that I might not have even cared about. And I think that there are people that don't do content that are just critical of movies in general, and they might have the same problems that I had. But overall, I thought it was really fun. I really enjoyed the comedy. I knew that it was going to be comedic going in because I'd watched some other reviews from last night. So some of the jokes were lost because I was like, haha, I get what you did there. But it was funny, and it was delightful. I thought the movie was delightful, and I thought that there was a lot of parts of it that were delightful. And I think that we should start by just talking about Daisy Ridley and her portrayal of Rey, because I think that it is refreshing. It is delightful, and it's fun. I think that you can understand what it's like to be a person that doesn't know where you're from, that doesn't know where you belong. And I think that Daisy does a good job of conveying that, while also kind of just being personable. I think she did a really good job. I thought she was a great actress in this film. I think Adam Driver did a great job as well. I think that he conveys exactly what he needs to convey in this film. And I really, really, really thought that Carrie Fisher, this was a great last performance for her. I think that overall I was happy with a lot of the character development, even though maybe I wasn't as happy with some of the story points. And there was a lot of things that you might say that you wish you would have gotten more out of, but you have to remember this isn't the last film. Visually, this was probably my favorite Star Wars film visually. There were so many amazing visuals in this film that I really enjoyed. I really felt like I got a lot out of it. I actually wish I had sat farther back in the theater so that I could see more, because there was so much to see compared to other films that I've watched recently. A lot of times things with visual effects can become overwhelming. There's actually too much to see. Whereas with this, I felt like I could have gotten more. Like, I missed out on things, but it wasn't too much. I just didn't put myself in a situation to see everything that I could see. And I really thought that the pacing of this film was really good. There were parts that were a little bit off. There's a little bit of a part where Finn and the new character Rose travel. And, that part is interesting. It is interesting. But it does change the pacing of the film, and it feels a little bit weird. Not too weird, but it feels... It is a different pace than the other things going on in the film, but you're supposed to keep track of both because they're both very important. But other than that, I thought it was great. Like, if you look at something like A New Hope, that film is paced very weirdly, where it's got one pace and then all of a sudden it jumps to a whole new pace. This film felt pretty consistent, right? Because you're following something happening. This film takes place in a very short amount of time, and you feel it. You feel the fact that it's in a short amount of time. So overall, I was happy with it. I enjoyed it. I thought it was better than The Force Awakens. I thought that there were things that could be improved. let's get into the spoilery part of the video. Before I get there, I hope that you go see this film. It's really good. It's way better than the Rotten Tomato audience reviews giving it right now. I'm not sure what's going on. But it is definitely better than that. Okay, so if you've watched it, you know that Snoke dies. And I don't actually have a problem with Snoke dying as much as, like, the fact that you learn literally nothing about Snoke before Snoke dies. You know that he's strong in the Force, and that's it. That's literally all you know. This guy is like this thing that took over Kylo's life and like influenced this very strong Force user to turn him to the dark side. And we actually learn nothing about Snoke. Nothing. I know nothing about him. And maybe that's okay, but it didn't feel okay. Like, is he Lord Plagueis? Is he more than Lord Snoke? Like, I don't actually know anything about him other than the fact that Kylo killed him and tricked him, which was sweet. It was a sweet scene, but I wish that I had gotten insight into Snoke before that happened. And that kind of brings me to a lot of answers. So we can start with the answer of Rey's heritage. I don't think this is true. And there's a few reasons for my feelings. And this is not only spoilery, but also guessy. So, like, if you don't want to hear, like, guesswork, skip this part. But I don't believe that Kylo was telling the truth. I believe that Kylo is trying to trick Rey. I think that Kylo does know where Rey's family comes from. But I think he lied to her because he told her what he thought she needed to hear to turn to the dark side. And I think that if you kind of pick up on the musical cue, if it had been a real revelation, I think the music would have been more in tune with that revelation. Where instead the music stayed the same throughout him talking. And in movies, you can pick up a lot from like the feelings you get as things are said. And there was a big empty feeling from that revelation. Which made, and part of that has to do with the music leading up to it and the music during it. And it didn't change. So for me, I don't think that's correct. There was some answers as to what the Force is. And if you've been watching Star Wars Rebels, you know that there have been talks of an in-between. That the Jedi, and if you are a big Star Wars fan, you know the Jedi they're kind of crazy. They're like a really crazy cult that's one-sided. And Luke realizes that. And when he says the Jedi need to die, it's not that the Force needs to die. It's that to be so black and white is incorrect. And one of the things that you hear, if you remember in the Revenge of the Sith, is Obi-Wan says only Sith speak in absolutes. And the problem with that line is that the Jedi are very absolute in their beliefs. That there's no in between for a lot of them. And Luke realizes that. And it gives you some answers into the Force that I think are more realistic. The next thing that I want to talk about is the love quad angle that's going on right here. So you have maybe it's, I mean, according to a lot of people, Poe's in love with Finn, which I don't think is true, but that's just shipping. But let's talk about what they're telling us to think, okay? According to what the story is telling us to think, Finn likes Rey. Rey is kind of off on her own. The music and the feeling of the film wants you to ship Kylo and Rey. So they want you to put those two together. Rose likes Finn. Finn is now conflicted because he likes Rey, but Rose likes him. And you get this weird feeling between Kylo and Rey. My opinion, just my opinion, I know this is another guesswork thing, is that Kylo and Rey are actually twins. They're actually both solos. Kylo knows this now. Kylo might have always known this, or Luke wiped his memory, or Leia wiped his memory. And the reason that the connection was so easy for Snoke to create is the same reason that Luke and Leia have their connection, and that is because they are twin siblings from Leia. Similar to the twin siblings of Legacy of the Force, which is, if you haven't read Legacy of the Force, even though it's not canon anymore, it's part of Legacy. You should read it. It is my actual personal. It might be my favorite series of any books, including Harry Potter. I love Legacy of the Force. But I actually believe that Kylo and Rey are either twins or cousins. They are related. And that this whole feeling of like, I don't know what to call it other than sexual tension, is on purpose. So it's to make us feel weird once it's revealed. Uh, let's talk about Luke for a second. So, I love Mark Hamill. I appreciate everything he's done for my childhood. Um, Sometimes I have a hard time watching Mark deliver dialogue in person. He's a great voice actor, but I've always felt like I was missing something when he delivered dialogue outside of voice acting. And a lot of the complaints with this film is the dialogue is awkward between Luke and Rey, between Luke and Kylo. And I think that part of that is Mark, but I I don't know. I felt like this might have been Mark Hamill's best performance ever as Luke Skywalker. Uh, I think that his comedic timing was amazing. I think that uh, the final scenes with Luke as a Force entity against Kylo was quite interesting. There was a real connection between Mark and the other characters that he interacted with. Outside of Chewie, that scene was weird. Um, and then there's Kylo, and I thought Adam Driver had an amazing performance. Uh, oh, can we rewind to Luke for a second? So, I don't know if anybody else noticed this. So, I'm watching this movie, and you see Anakin's lightsaber break, and then when Luke fights Kylo, he has Anakin's lightsaber. And I'm like losing my mind at this point. I'm like, what is happening? Like, this is the worst continuity ever. Who let this happen in a video in this movie? And I'm like actually physically upset watching this. I like want to vomit. And after it's shown that Luke is not actually there, I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm the stupidest human. How did I not? I'm sitting here upset rather than thinking, why is this happening? Which is how I usually watch films. But it actually goes to show like how invested I was in this film. This 2.5 hour very long film, I enjoyed a lot of. I got a lot out of it. And this continuity problem was actually not a continuity problem. It was actually to give you hints as to what was happening. We're walking out of the theater going to lunch. My wife, who usually I'm the one giving, like, hey, just so you know, like, did you notice this? This is what's happening. She's like, I don't know how you didn't see it. Like, his beard was darker. I was like, well, yeah, I noticed that. She's like, blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, yep, you realized it. I didn't. I don't know. And it just goes to show, like, that you get so captured sometimes. And this film did a good job of capturing me. So let's go back to Kylo. Adam Driver, Ben Solo, Kylo Ren provided a very good performance. There was a lot of emotion. You felt him. He twisted you and turned you as you didn't know what was happening with his character. And it felt good to watch. It felt good to be a part of. And I really enjoyed it. I thought that he and Daisy, their chemistry and what they did on screen, was some of the best on-screen chemistry that we've seen in a Star Wars film. Let's talk about Yoda really quick. So I love Yoda. My wife loves Yoda even more than I do. Putting a puppet in a show for the sake of putting a puppet in the show is not okay with me. CGI Yoda looks more realistic and looks better than Puppet Yoda. I get it. You love Puppet Yoda. It's nostalgic for you. It's not as good as CGI Yoda. It's not. It doesn't look like a real thing. It looks like a puppet. You can tell it's a puppet. And to sit there and like be happy that they used a puppet because you'd rather them use a puppet is just you being ridiculous. I don't know. That's just my opinion. I can be wrong here. But I was very happy with Yoda. I thought that the fact that as those Force ghosts grow with the Force, learn more about the Force as they progress through their Force lives, it was interesting to hear Yoda's perspective and watch Yoda. I thought that having Yoda in the film was great. I wish that both Ben and Anakin had been in it. Obi-Wan and Anakin had also spoken with Luke. But overall, there was a lot of fan service, a lot of continuity that I missed that was great. So what's next? What is next for Star Wars? I actually have no idea. So we still need to know, is Kylo telling Ren the truth? I feel like we still don't know who Leader Snoke is. Um, and what's next for this rebellion? You know, the Republic's gone. The First Order's attacking everything. They're taking over. What is next for this galaxy? Uh, Especially who was Plagueis? Why are people so willing to move over and let Kylo talk and be in charge? So there's a lot that could happen in the third film, and it really did feel like a bridge film in a lot of ways. You didn't get the answer. There was no satisfactory answers. If you were satisfied with some answers in this film, please leave a comment. Let me know. I'd love to hear. Maybe I missed something. I'm gonna probably see this movie a few more times. But my initial impressions are I enjoyed it more than The Force Awakens. I didn't enjoy it as much as Rogue One, Return of the Jedi, or Empire. Um, but it was good. It was fun. 2.5 hour Star Wars film that I enjoyed the whole way through. Other than the Snoke thing. Oh, by the way, the battle between Kylo, Rey, and the guard was super interesting. And I would be interested to see if in the next film they use the Knights of Ren, or if he just killed all the Knights of Ren. Like, I don't actually... Were those the Knights of Ren? Were those just the guards? Does he still have an entire group of Force-sensitive, trained Dark Jedi behind him? Like, what is happening? So there's a lot to be gained here, a lot to be discovered. That's my initial impressions. Please leave a comment. Let me know what you think. If you're going to spoil something in the comments, please type out big letter spoiler, space, 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 space. Leave people room that don't want to get spoilers that haven't seen it yet. But thank you everybody for watching. Don't forget to check out patreon.com/HeezyGameMedia to become a patron of this kind of content. I really appreciate everybody viewing. I know this is new for me. I'm going to try and get better, but great film. Thank you so much, Star Wars. Star Wars is the best. I'm going to see you guys all next time.